What are the common traits among those who are having unwanted same-sex attraction?
They also tend to be very obedient.
Suppose that a child, 6 years old, comes and tells maybe his mother that I don't want to be a boy, I want to be a girl.
These are all signs, and if you know all that, you don't even have to wait for your son to tell you. Please remove this idea that they are at fault for having these same-sex attraction feelings. Remove that idea.
Bryan is a well-known counselor, international trainer. He's author of 2 books. Would you like to say something about your books?
So this is my first book. It is published in 2018. But before that, I was already giving talks, I was giving education. And many of my audience are saying, Bryan, there's not enough of people like you. We need more information. And so this was requested by the audience. This first book is meant to explain what are the factors that makes a person have unwanted same-sex attraction. It's really to understand the individual and to see that all the factors are around it. So this book is a bit more. It has part 1 and part 2, and part 2 is to address all the different systems around, so the people who can help, the parents, the society, the governments and all that. And the first part is actually to give a better education about how non-heterosexuality develops.
So, Bryan, you have worked with many young adults, teens, and different families. What are the common traits among those who are having unwanted same-sex attraction?
Well, firstly, the ones who have unwanted same-sex attractions tend to be a bit more religious. They also tend to be very obedient, nice in a way that is expected of them. They are also tend to be very studious, do very well in the academics, and in almost everything that they are asked to do, either as a Christian or a Catholic, or even some Muslims. They tend to be very, very nice, very good. Sometimes even too nice.
Okay.
So over the years, I can sense that sometimes underneath all this very good presentation outwardly, there is something that's almost pushing them that you must be good, you must be this, you must be that. So that's generally the kind of...
Is it a part of their pain that they are trying to just cover?
I think it's a combination of social requirements, parental requirements. I give you an example. For example, in Singapore, in many Asian countries, increasingly the society expects children to do well in school, to do well as citizens. And that has a pressure on the parents, and that translates from the parents to the children. And therefore, all this pressure, and sometimes parents also might even threaten, if you don't do this, then you get punished, and all of that. So I wouldn't say it really is a pain, but rather it comes from a kind of an anxiousness, a kind of a deep feeling that if I am not good, if I am not well-behaved, then I will not be accepted. So it comes from there.
Okay.
Yeah. However, I will add one more thing, and that is if the child sets a very high bar, a very high standard of what is good, then the likelihood of not meeting that standard will cause that child to often be disappointed, often feel not good enough, often feel, I'm ashamed. And that's very sad because who sets the bar? You know?
Yes.
Yeah, so maybe that could translate into a pain.
And I realized since you were speaking that they are also very creative. Actually, many of them are very creative, very knowledgeable, maybe in arts, in these areas. And actually, they are well known for their creativity in these areas of design, arts, graphics. So, is it part of their personality?
I would say it probably begins with an increased sensitivity.
Yes.
But then again, sensitivity, you have physical sensitivity, there's emotional sensitivity. And I will add, many of them have moral sensitivity. What does it mean to have moral sensitivity? They are more affected by immorality that they see around them. They may have siblings, they even may have identical twins, but that twin or that sibling does not have the same moral sensitivity and therefore are not so affected by some of the wrong things that they see in society. If you combine that with their emotional sensitivity, even physical sensitivity, then there's a higher chance for them to pull away from the rough and tumble type of activities. And if in pulling away, if in being slightly different from the rest, then you get the bullying. Oh, you're a sissy. Oh, you're a this and that. So what happens is that they don't feel that positive acceptance. And how do you compensate?
And belonging.
Yes, yes, and belonging. On top of that, if you have a situation where the parents also give either direct or indirect messages that only if you are a well-behaved child, only if you do well in school, then you are acceptable. So if you combine these two, there's a high chance that to compensate for the lack of acceptance, they will go towards studies. Now, when it comes to the arts, actually, from my perspective, if you are very perceptive, if you are very sensitive, you will also pick up the finer points in life and you can translate that into different forms, either in music, either in the art, or even in acting and expressions. So I think that's a very natural outcome of being sensitive.
Yes, yes, very true.
And one more thing. When you're in the arts, when you are involved in many of these activities or even studies, your whole concentration is there and you're not thinking of the negative things in life. For example, if you are getting a lot of bullying and negativity, but if I'm involved in the arts, and not only that, I'm being praised for being talented and all that, it's a form of escape from what's negative. And therefore, they are being rewarded for these arts and they go on in that direction. So that's my view of how come from the very beginning, starting from sensitivity, they move on into this direction of being very good in studies, in almost anything they do.
Yes. And I think that they are really good in nature. If they were in a good environment, they will not go into this direction unless the family dynamics are not good or does not, let's say, help them to grow in the right direction. If, for example, the family appreciates their sensitivity and help them to grow these talents or support them, then it's less likely, please correct me, it's less likely that they will go into the wrong direction because they will be having the sense of belonging. They are appreciated and they are loved the way they are. So there's no pressure to push them towards things that are they do not want it in the first place, and they become in peace with their identity and not into this inner conflict of I am, let's say, a man, but nobody is accepting me as a man the way I am.
Yes, I think what you're saying is true, and maybe even more true than you think it is. You see, I believe your message is every child is different, and the differences does not make one child less than the other. Every child is very unique, okay? And actually, if you look at it even further, let's say a child that is born with a physical disability and therefore is unable to run like the other children,
yes.
you know, or even if the disability is not that big, but still it doesn't allow the child to keep up with all the rest in many other physical things. Well, I think if any parent were to say, in that case, then you're not good enough, then that's very wrong. That's not very good, okay? But if the parent actually can see that even if, for example, a child born blind, but usually there is a compensating talent. The hearing gets very sharp. Or a child that is born deaf, the sight is very sharp. So there's always a compensating gift. And I think parents should always keep that in mind. Then again, if you look further into this whole thing about why would a child be not accepted by the other people in society? Okay, why would a child not be accepted by find life so difficult? Again, I think if parents understand the intrinsic value of that child and then help that child navigate through all these bigger challenges, yes, you're right. They will still turn out fine.
Yes.
Okay, so I think coming back to this huge problem of people with unwanted same-sex attraction, it is actually an extension of what you just said, that you see each child as being very unique. And I will have to bring in God's will in all these things. Because why would a child who is sensitive physically, emotionally, and morally sensitive,
Morally, yes.
that's the one there, why would that child be more affected? And again, if we are guiding that child properly, and if you can add on what is God's will in all these things, then you see a greater inner value and beauty of that child. So it's in the same direction.
Yes, it's only the comparison that kills this beauty, because
Yes.
we have a blueprint in our heads and we want our children to follow this blueprint. If it does not, then we pull them or do not accept them. And this actually leads us to the second question I have in mind. And it's good to discuss the family dynamics that you have faced or come across in your counseling that led to children or teens or young adults to go into this unwanted same-sex attraction.
Well, most of the cases that I have, usually they are situated in Asia. Even in the country that I come from, we do have Chinese, we do have Malay, we have Indians, and because I also work in Thailand, Philippines, so it's a very Asian kind of a family. And in Asia, generally, there is men are supposed to be working, and women are supposed to be in a household. And some cultures, some ethnicity tend to have more of the man is right, the man has the authority. And even though that is there, you can still have good men, but some men take that advantage too far. And it's a huge problem. And some ladies also accept it in a way that is not helpful. I accept being, always given commands, and I just follow. I don't think that's the best for a woman. But unfortunately, in certain cultures, some women take the easy way out. In my culture, if I don't argue, I just follow. That's good enough. Well, what's going to happen in the next generation is, if you have a girl, if you have a daughter, who might say, I don't want to be like that.
Yes, yes.
I don't want to be a doormat, just something to be thrown about. At the same time, you may have some boys who said, I don't want to be such a man who is such a chauvinist, violent. I don't like that. Yes,
Yes.
So typically you have that dynamics. However, I do see, even in Asia, certain mothers, certain wives are domineering. And increasingly, more of this is happening.
Yes, and I realize that more and more men in general, and fathers specifically, are withdrawing from their families. They are not taking a bigger role or a role in their families. They are more depending on their wives. I think we as mothers play a role because we want things to be in a certain way, in a perfect way. We want to make sure everything is right. So we want the father to follow our rules and let's say all the details.
Yes.
And he doesn't want it this way. So
Well, again, I've seen quite often, sometimes the wife, the mother, will show the consequences of not getting her way. And the consequences can be either she emotionally erupts in a way that's very difficult for the husband to deal with, or she can just, go into this mode where he is now without the support of the wife, even though she doesn't say anything, but she just withdraws all her emotional and even physical support. So you can have either way. Either it's very violent, or it is negative. And that's the way in which the woman can, I want to get what I want. I can manipulate. And some husband says, okay, I don't want to deal with this. And then the woman now is able to manipulate, able to dominate. And of course, some women also use her ability to emasculate a man, to make a man feel less of a man.
Yes.
And that's very, very destructive, not only to their marriage, but it destroys their children's sense of what is a man relationship to a woman and what's a relationship to a man.
It destroys the family. Yes, the connection of all the family members together.
Yeah. However, let me just go further into the background. Why are there more of such women? Again, it comes from the background of, if they see that men in general are not safe, men in general are not good, and therefore I need to be strong. And if my husband is not reliable, my husband has a tendency to do this, then I will assert control in order to make sure that my family doesn't end up like the bad men, families with bad men. And that's the background. And if you have a combination of certain men who don't want to follow the bad men, so you're talking about the next generation where the girls tend to be tougher, stronger in order to defend themselves, and the men, the good ones, don't want to be the bad men, and they tend to give in. And that sets up for that dynamics where the woman has the risk of becoming more domineering. Now, from what I can see, the risk increases if they don't have a good enough understanding of the religious faith that they come from. If they don't have that, then in my opinion, I think the wrong ideas of evil, when I say evil, I'm talking about Satan's ability to lie to you starts going into your head, and things get from bad to worse. And usually that's the background, that's usually the family dynamics. That, at that level, is the main thing to concentrate on, is the main work that I'm doing to prevent. Not the children. The children are just innocent victims of this family dynamic, which is very sad.
Very true. Yes. And now, suppose that a child, Brian, of 6 years old, comes and tells his mother or father that, maybe his mother, that I don't want to be a boy, I want to be a girl. And in media and everywhere, especially now, even in schools, they hear these things. So, how would a mother react, or a father would react?
Well, I think the first thing is, I would say, please know yourself first. Okay? Do you have a good relationship with your son? Do you know your son well? Does your son trust you? Or is that question going to suddenly hit you and says, oh my gosh, I don't think I know my son well? Okay? So let me try and separate out the different scenarios. Okay? So let's say the mother suddenly says, oh my gosh, I don't think I know my son that well. Then I would say, try to understand and ask, why do you say that? Okay, because you want to know whether your son actually is okay, but is being influenced by the media. Okay, and if the child says, oh, I heard from here and I just feel like I want to try. And of course, straight away you can do the education that, God made male and female not the same, but there's a reason why they're not the same. And then there's software and all that kind of stuff. And for a 6 years old, not so difficult to give the proper education. However, if the boy says that I really don't feel that I can fit in with the other boys, I feel more comfortable with the girls. Okay, and you know yourself, maybe you've seen it, but you didn't really hit that it has that powerful effect. Then I would say, you have something real. That means the child really feels that, I don't think I am boy because I've never had that same sex affirmation boys, making me feel that I'm one of them. Now, I would say for the mother, she should, or every mother, you should learn, you should know what are the factors. For example, if your son does not have a good relationship with the father, if your son is too close to you, if your son is very, very attuned until he gets upset if you are upset, these are all signs. And if you know all that, you don't even have to wait for your son to tell you.
Yes.
If all these signs are there, you have to take action way before your son says, I don't feel like a girl. So those are the important things I would say to parents. Don't wait for your child to ask, to tell you these things. Learn everything, know yourself, know your family dynamics. And if you have all of that, you don't have to wait.
True. Now, what if it's not my son, not someone from my immediate family? Let's say a close friend, or a son of a far relative, and they are having some feelings, or having unwanted same-sex attraction feelings. So, what are the, let's say, very essential skills to help this young man?
Well, my question will be, how would you know that this person is having unwanted same-sex attraction?
Maybe he approached this person, or maybe, okay, we can say it's either that he approached you, or you felt it, but he did not speak. In each case, what are we going to do? Can we do something? Can we help?
Yes. Again, I want to emphasize the importance of being educated about the subject. Okay, knowing what are the factors in the background, and let me just run through very quickly. For a boy, very often he doesn't play sports, he's not close to the father, or the father relationship is not very good, as well as to the boy, to his brothers, or he has more sisters. He is very close to the mother, or the influence of the mother and the sisters, or the female in the family are very strong. He's living with the mother, the grandmother, the auntie, but the males are not with him. And so if all these factors are there, we should know ahead of time that the chances are pretty high. Okay, so these are the factors to know in our minds. And for the girl, if not only is the male not a good role model, but even the female are not a good role model, she doesn't like it. So if all these are known ahead of time, then you will know generally it's all about the family background, the family dynamics. And therefore, if you know somebody who shows certain signs, maybe for the boy he's a little bit soft, he's a bit more, talented and different, and the girl, showing all these non-gender conforming traits, then the first thing to do is to build a relationship with that person, a proper relationship. Generally, it should be a male to the boy or a female to the girl. Generally, it should be.
Yes.
But I think it's also okay for a female to know the boy, build a trust and relationship, and then point him to good men.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's all possible. But we start with building up the relationship, and from the building up of relationship, get to know him, get to know her, and get to have a sense of what is the factors that is affecting them, what are they missing, and then try to fill it up if you can. Okay, so let's say if you are a female and you know this boy, you're a relative, you get to know him, and you find out that, he doesn't have enough good male role models. Well, what are the ways in which we can introduce him to other male role models? You could speak to a mutual relative who's a male, who's a good male role model. If he's part of the community, let's say, a religious community, and you know somebody, you can introduce them. If the boy is always studying and worried about studies, and you know that his parents never pushed him, actually it's a self anxiousness that I must do well in studies, you can tell him, say, you don't have to be the smartest person in the world for people to value who you are. So things like that we can do. And we don't have to wait for them to tell us, I have same-sex attraction.
Yes.
But even if they do tell us, to me, that same-sex attraction is not the main thing. It is all these underlying things that's important. And we the same for the girl. So yes, I would say, don't wait. Learn all these factors that is there, and be on the lookout. Be on the lookout, and I'm always very sensitive to children who are somehow not really fitting in, even though they may be just 7 years old, even though they are still young, and even though puberty hasn't even hit them yet, so they have no idea.
It's even better, right?
It's even
instead
better.
of waiting for
That's right.
that age in which there's also other factors. There are other
That's right.
factors that
That's
are
right.
affecting them. Yes.
That's right. Yeah, and that's why I say education, telling everybody, it's so crucial. It's so crucial. And one of the most important thing is to tell parents, please don't be over anxious and pushing your children. Relax, bring your children out, and spend time with your children in a way that increases their sense of, I'm okay who I am. I'm accepted as a female. I'm accepted as a male by another female, by another male, by all these people. So I think all these are very crucial and can be done by the people, especially the parents, the teachers, and everybody around
Community
the child.
around,
Community.
yes. And this will make me ask you then, what are the most important things that you wish the society would know so that we help and protect more number of children, teens?
I think the first thing is, please remove this idea that they are at fault for having these same-sex attraction feelings. Remove that idea. Okay, it is not their fault. It's all the factors beyond their control, actually. And I want to stress very much, the first time they are aware of these same-sex attraction, it's not a yay, yippee moment for them. No, it's a, oh my gosh, it's a terrible moment for them. And therefore they keep it, they have so much confusion, they have so much fear. And then they go to the internet. And what do they find on the internet? It's all
the support they do not find in their
Yes.
community, they will find it online.
Exactly. And not only that, they get the kind of support that is based on wrong information.
Now, many do tell me that, okay, if we do not say that they are wrong, we are normalizing these acts in the community. And this is a big issue that we face, especially in, let's say, in the East. That does this mean that we are normalizing these cases? We are just accepting it and that's it? Aren't we pushing the other children to follow suit?
Let me use an analogy of, let's say, without anybody knowing, there is a kind of pollution. We don't know where it's from. It could be in the water, it can be in the air, but it's causing a kind of problem in our children. And the problem could be they can't see well, or they get myopia. They can only see in close range. And then you have more and more of our children having this issue. But you don't know where and what the cause is, let's say. Would it mean that you say, oh, you're at fault because you become blind, you choose to have this problem? Of course we don't blame our children. Does it mean that it is normalized? No, of course not. But what we must do is we must try and find where is the cause, what is going on. Now, the LGBT community, for a very long time, and like I said, I don't want to, and I really have no intention, and I really don't want to say that they're wrong, but for too long, people come to the wrong conclusion of what is the cause for too long. Okay, and they try to correct it by, of course, if you have the wrong idea of what's caused, your attempts to try and correct it will be wrong. And for too long, yes, there will be a lot of suffering because you're giving the wrong method to try and help. Okay, and it's true. People try to help by giving shock therapy. People try to help by giving aversion therapy. These are all very early stages, which is not based on scientific and proper understanding. But if we know that if the mother does not have enough time with the daughter, if the father doesn't have enough time, we know that so many of these factors are not there, the chances of a child developing same-sex attraction is very, very high. How can we say, let's not think of all these causes and let's not blame them and let's normalize them? Of course, we will never do that.
Yes.
We will want to correct. We will want to educate the parents. Please, fathers, spend more time with your sons. Please, mothers, do all these things. And of course, every parent, if they know the truth, they will want to do what is right. It's not about normalizing. It's not about saying that, oh, it's normal. No. Yes, the blame is not there. But where the adults and where the people above can do something to prevent, to reduce it, I think they must do it. So it's not about cure, it's about prevention.
Yes. Since we can prevent it, why not?
Exactly.
Yes,
Exactly.
and just blaming it it will not help that it goes.
Yes.
Sometimes we think that, okay, if I blame it enough, then it will disappear. It doesn't.
It doesn't.
If somebody is always angry and we do not really address the issue why he is in this anger state
Yes.
all the time,
Yes.
we just blame him for being angry, this will not help. We will say, no, we don't want our other children to follow his way of just going into rage. But actually, we have to address the problem and
Yes.
solve the root cause of it.
Right, right. Please allow me to use an analogy, because very often there is an accusation that I am looking at it like as though it's a disease. Actually, it is not a disease, but more accurately, it is a deficit.
Yes.
So let me use another analogy that is a deficit and not a disease. Hunger is a deficit. A person with hunger, you don't say, oh, this is normal. Neither do you do nothing. Why is a person living in hunger? Well, there's hunger because actually it's a systemic issue. Okay, the society doesn't have enough logistics, planning ahead for enough food. And so this person has grown up all her life with hunger. And yes, with hunger, there may be certain things that cannot come up because I don't have nutrition, so I may not have the height, I may not have the strength, I may not have strong bones. And maybe I didn't even know I was in hunger, I didn't even know that I was in malnutrition for a long time. But if somebody says, you are living in hunger at the age of 30, it does not mean I don't do anything. I will still try to provide what has been missing for a long time. And let's see, maybe after providing all the nutrition, something may be gained over there. But here again comes the languaging. I have hunger, I live with hunger, but I am not hunger. I do not identify as hunger, and neither do I celebrate being hunger. So I just wanted to make the languaging a little bit more accurate, and it's not about curing a sickness, but is rather raising people's awareness that there is a deficit. And once we understand what's missing, we can provide what is missing.
Very true. Have you come across a case that changed a lot in your perspective, or actually it stayed with you?
Oh, so many. I think, let me say very clearly as much as I can, because the kind of clients with unwanted same-sex attraction that I'm dealing with, they really, really want to know why do I have
These feelings.
Why did God give me these things? And when I first started, I said, I don't really know. I have a very, very rough guess what it is, but let's go through your history and let's try and discover new things and learn new things. And do they really give me the very, very detailed background history? And I learned so many things from them.
One case.
Yes, I will maybe share with you a very recent case, okay? And this is a case of a man who is now already in his 30s. He is very, very religious. He is always wanting to do what is right. But he grew up in an environment where he was always concentrating on his studies. He was not good in his sports. And he always felt alone. He always felt that he couldn't connect with people. But he didn't really pay much attention to it because, studies was more important. He did very, very well in his studies. So he went and studied in a Western country, did very well, came back. But there were times, especially when he's alone overseas, that loneliness was very, very, very painful. But, feelings, when someone says, I'm lonely, it's really not something that you can compare because you are not in his body and neither can he compare. So even at that point, we didn't really know how that loneliness was.
And
Anyway.
actually, it can come and can be caused by many different reasons.
Yes, many, many different reasons. Now, he continued to do his work, but eventually what slowly developed, again, nobody knew, was voyeurism, which means he's taking pictures of another man. Okay, and this is happening, in public places. And one day he was caught by the victim. Okay, and that brought huge shame and everything. But, the police didn't know what to do, and therefore it took a very long time. And during that time, he engaged a lawyer and everything. And the lawyers were trying very hard to get him off, the jail term. And they did a good job, by giving some kind of a diagnosis, adjustment disorder, and all that kind of stuff. But what happened was that the root cause was never addressed. And therefore, after that went on, by the way, he lost his job because of the police thing. He lost his job, and then he got a fairly similar job to what it is. And then after 5 years, he got caught again. The second time, it really brought him down tremendously, really tremendously. The first time, he told his parents. Parents were still very supportive. They prayed for him very, very much, and things stabilized. And when he was caught the second time, he didn't have the heart to tell his parents. And he went, if he could pray, the whole day, that was what he was doing. And one of the religious whom he talked to, it was a female religious, and she referred his case to me. By the time he came to me, he said, my prayers was enough. I feel at peace enough. I feel that God is going to somehow guide me through. And I'm willing to go on in life like that. And I said, please tell me more. What do you mean by you're willing to go on in life like that? He says that the sheer amount of shame, the sheer amount of disappointment is in itself killing my desire to do what is not right. And just for that to keep me there and praying to God, I'm okay to go on like this because I'm not doing what is bad. I'm far more religious and I can do this. And I asked him, I said, then why are you coming to see me? He says, because my mother wants me to get married. I could get married, but I know that I will never be able to satisfy a woman, okay, because I don't think it is fair for her, for me to have this attraction to the same sex and all of that. Or I have to know for sure, am I made this way by God, and therefore maybe I should get into a relationship with a man. But as far as I can, both of us to remain very, very religious. So I need to know, did God make me this way, or what path to take? And I said, I don't think either path is the right path. And I said, let me suggest to you what else we can do, because I fully respect your religious fervor, and I fully understand what you mean, that whole humiliation that brought you down into humility stops you from doing all these things. Yes, I fully understand that. But there's more to it. Okay, and would you want to go through it? He says, well, I'm open to it. And so we went through a very thorough background history of his background history. And he was so intelligent. He was very sensitive. He could list down everything. And I said, I can see everything. It was just so clear. And he wasn't slow in writing. He wrote very well, very detailed, and very fast. And when I explained to him, his eyes flew open and he says, my God, this is the first time I can fully understand what's going on. And I said, does it change the way in which you pray? He says, yes, of course. I know what to pray for. I know what to do this and everything. And I said, do you know what we can work on? He says, yes, I know what we can work on. I said, okay, very good. So I said, you have two things, okay? One is the same-sex attraction is because you don't have a strong male role model. You were not close to your father. You were close to your sister. You were close to this. So we can deal with that. But I said, there's something else. Your detail told me why you had voyeurism. You said many times, somehow when I took pictures of the other men, somehow I feel that I have a connection with that person. I said, okay, that's very good. So now what we need to do is to have you have healthy connection with men.
And true connection.
True and good connection.
Yes.
And, he was like, wow, I fully understand it now. I fully, and he has that joy in understanding. Then I went one step further. I said, will you give me permission to explain all this to that religious sister so that she now can help you make the connections? He says, yes, go ahead. And I said to him, you told me also that you're involved in this religious community in doing all these things and helping them, but nobody knows about your struggles. But I know the person in charge of that community. Will you give me permission to tell him so that he can support you? He said, yes. And just like that, we have two people supporting him.
Who are supporting.
And he is someone who makes the fastest progress. The fastest progress. So the lesson I learned is, it is not just in the religious side that is very important, or only the clinical side that is important, but it is both.
Yes.
Two have to work together. And I love it when a client that comes to me with unwanted same-sex attraction is also wanting to get the religious part involved in his work. So this is just one latest case, but I'm sorry, I just have so many. I would love to share, but I just give this one.
Thanks a lot, Bryan. Now your last message to fathers. Since you are a man,
Okay.
so you are the best to tell fathers
All right.
the final word.
Please allow me to also add the spiritual side of fathers. Fathers have not just, authority culturally over the wife as well as the children, but spiritual authority. In other words, the father, if he is a good man, he will be able to identify spiritual evil. When I say spiritual evil, thoughts that are not correct, disturbance in what I think is right and wrong. He will be able to detect that in his wife and in his children. And he is the one that needs to use his wisdom, his understanding of strategy, as well as his authority to drive out all these wrong ideas. He should be the one who sets the right tone so that there's proper respect between male and female, female and male. He is the one that sets the right atmosphere. And he has to also set the right role modeling as a member of the community. If you do all this right, your children will be fine.
Thanks a lot, Bryan. It was a lovely, really interview with you.